right, brothers and sisters, I'm sure you're all familiar with the phrase, simple as taking a satellite dish from a bear's cave?
No.
Well, the time has come. Only instead of simple, it'll probably be extremely complicated and cost many lives. So, let's get started. We'll start in the caves at the bottom of the cliff.
No climbing. I like it already.
Glad you approve. Eventually, we'll come to an underground river. We follow this nice, swooping curve of scenic, high-resolution underground caverns right underneath Vincent the Bear's old den.
Hi. Quick question. He's not there, right? The hungry, angry bear who hates us?
Vern, please. Do you honestly think I'd recklessly endanger our lives with some harebrained scheme? I scouted it out just the other day. It was cold and cobwebby, desolate.
Which day was this again?
I told you, the other one. Now we'll come back about halfway up the mountain.
The bear we're not supposed to feed.
Vern, I scouted it. Or meant to. Whatever. Now, if I can continue, from here, we just head up the mountain to the den, grab the satellite dish, then head back.
How exactly we planning on carting some big giant dish all the way down that mountain?
Worry. That's all you worrywarts do. Onward!
Hi everyone, welcome back to Over the Hedge, and yeah, as you can tell from the cutscene, we are going into Vincent's cave this time around. This is actually 4 levels dedicated to going up to Vincent. That was a very dumb echo joke that doesn't really work. They really hammer, I mean they do it in the movie too, but they do it even more in the game where they hammer the, like, Vern is insisting he's a reptile, but other people call him an amphibian. And, I don't know, it wasn't a very funny joke to begin with, and then it's just in this game, like, 3 times more, including there with the echo. I don't know, it's just kind of lame. But, anyway, my laziness yesterday has forced me to break the Timbo upload Sabbath. I'm uploading this on Sunday. I very rarely upload any videos on Sunday on this channel, because I usually try to keep the main LP videos to the Monday through Friday zone. And then, you know, if I miss any or if I have any extra ones, I put them up on Saturday, which was going to be my plan with this video after I missed this past Tuesday. And so I was going to put the videos up on Thursday and Saturday instead, and then Saturday came and went, and I don't even really know what happened. I think just by the time I was, like, ready to do that, because I was watching a movie at the beginning of the day, and then me and Liv decided to do something a little bit different and go out and just, you know, test out the camera I bought last year and shoot some stuff around the city. We were going to be out for much longer than they were, except it was hot as shit yesterday, as I take it that it is around most of the country at the moment, but it was literally, it had to have been, like, 100 plus degrees outside, and so we were sweating our balls off, and didn't really make it very far away from our apartment to film stuff, but hopefully we'll get to have you know, get a little bit more time for that in there, because I, you know, earlier last week in a previous video, and, you know, on and off for much of this, like, quarantine time, have been moping about, you know, how it's difficult to just thrust myself into actual, you know, more professional grade, or, you know, at the very least not sort of like in my spare time YouTube stuff like this and movie reviews. You know, how even before the pandemic, but especially now, it's hard to sort of get motivated and get everything together and, you know, make that kind of stuff happen. And it's, you know, just sort of the process of working my way up into making more serious projects on my own, and, you know, publishing them and using them as a means of doing whatever in my field. is a, gradual process and kind of an amorphous and organic one that you can't really rigidly plan ahead for every step of the way. Kind of just have to take everything how it comes and do what you can. So, it felt disappointing in the moment. It was one of those things where it was like, I don't feel like I've done much. We just kind of walked around with the camera for like an hour and a half, but, I recognize that it is a part in a process of something that I want to do, so, it was, even though it was hot as shit, it was still a nice day. It was nice to get outside. We've been cooped up in the house most of this week. And to, try something different. It's always nice to film some stuff, although I really need to get a steady cam, and next time we didn't bring our tripod with us, so we should do that next time, because all the videos are very shaky. I'm burping, sorry. They're very shaky, so. Anyway, here's one of the worst enemies in the game, these armadillos. And yeah, you fight one of them, spend 10 minutes doing that, and then you get to spend 40 minutes fighting 4 of them. And we are only going to be completing, I believe, 1 normal level in this segment. There's another shorter one later on, but this one has many parts to it, and a lot of them are very padded out with these combat bits. And I have to say, that's becoming, I've mentioned it already before, but it's becoming a thing that's increasingly annoying me about this game, is how so much of the playtime is dedicated to just fighting hordes of enemies, and yet, like, the actual fighting of them is kind of uninteresting to me. Like, I don't know, you have mostly just like the special attacks, and I mean, you do unlock other moves, but they basically just still amount to, pressing one of 2 buttons. And I don't know, there's the combat system isn't super in-depth. Not that I do well with super in-depth combat systems necessarily, but just, for it to be such a big portion of the game, I either would want them to maybe, have more of a balance between that element and like the platforming parts of the game, of which there are not very many, or give a little bit more depth to the combat other than just the special moves and your normal moves, which are basically just whacking them with various objects, and with having so many of them just be hordes of enemies. Like, I feel like there are ways, either in the creation of the enemies or in the layout of the level, that it can be more than just, well, before you can move to the next room, you have to kill, 50 rats. And how do you kill them? Well, you go up to them and you mash the X button until they die, and you hit them a couple times. And I don't know, I just feel like it could have been a little bit more interesting than that, but I don't know, this is one of those games that I still can have a good time with. Probably a big portion of it goes to the fact that I played it a lot as a child, and, that it's just pleasant to go back to things from that time. None of these things that I'm saying are new to anyone who has been watching my stuff for any period of time. That it's been kind of the modus operandus for this channel so far. I think I've talked about this before as well, but I wonder what's gonna happen when I run out of the licensed games that I've played before. Because, I mean, there are plenty more licensed games out there that I haven't tried that probably could make decent LPs, and I'm aware of them. Like, there's a pretty cool-looking Kim Possible game for the PS2. I know that there's a Rocket Power game for the GameCube, which seems very weird, but I don't know, could be good. I've never played any of the Fairly Odd Parents games. Last night, when I was streaming on Twitch, I did a little bit of a Jimmy Neutron GameCube game that I'd like to, revisit a little bit more. I don't know, and I guess there are SpongeBob games still to be done. Obviously, most of you know that I plan on doing BFBB Rehydrated at some point soon. But also, you know, I'd like to do the PC games, at least Employee of the Month, and if I can find it, the Lights, Camera, Pants PC game. The Battle for Bikini Bottom PC game, there's the handheld games, there's console games I haven't done but aren't very good, such as Atlantis Square Panis and Truth or Square, but there's a bunch of other ones. And I'm sure, you know, the trend of, like, shorter licensed games, or, you know, ones that are, if not directly based on movies or shows, are based on, like, existing other non-video game intellectual properties, and, you know, are generally easier, shorter, more geared at children or, you know, wider audiences, etc. But I hope that I can offset it with enough variety of other types of games overall, but, I mean, I guess we'll just have to see. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna suck when because obviously there are only so many games that I played as a child and, you know, have experience with. And so, at some point, I'm probably going to have exhausted all of those, and then I'll have to stare down the horrifying prospect of just having to come up with new things to say when I play games. I can't just say, oh, yeah, when I was a kid, I did this with this game, and isn't that weird? Or, you know, this game, why did I like this as a kid? Well, it has these things, and this is what was going on, and, like, that's fun to talk about, but, again, like, what am I gonna do when that's not a crutch, a commentary crutch that I can lean on anymore? And this bear cub has a very strange roar and looks very silly.
Or are we in the cave growing?
Hi, little fella. Don't worry, we're close friends of your uncle-in-law.
Friends? Not quite the word I'd use.
He wanted us for dinner.
Yeah.
Look,
And yeah, the bear doesn't really function any different than a regular enemy. You just hit it hard. That's the thing. I mean, like, other than, you know, some of them have just different attacks, and some of them, in terms of, like, physically what they do, like lunging at you instead of swinging something at you, and they are, you know, bigger or look different, or, you know, maybe they take a few more hits or whatever, but I don't think there's any that do more than 1 HP of damage when they hit you once. But, I mean, I might be wrong on that. And, most of them, the new enemies that they introduce, it's mostly just aesthetic differences, because you kill them in pretty much the exact same ways. An armadillo, I guess, has, and like the gophers are the only ones that present like a sort of change in how you interact with them, a significant one at least. I guess the chipmunks too, because they like shoot projectiles at you, but there are other enemies that already do that, but the only difference with the chipmunk is that it's smaller and moves around more and is more annoying. I don't know. That's why I think one of my favorite enemies in this game is the grill, because you have to at least use one of your not just swinging your thing around moves. This is a very stupid looking cutscene. These rats. Rats! We're the rats! I want to see what happened to this community of rats that was, you know, taken hostage by humans, and thousands of them were brainwashed into wielding guns and various weapons to beat up other animals. Also, the fact that this, like, okay, so not to get too ahead of the game here, because we're not going to see it till the next video, but when we see Vincent, he also has a mind control helmet on, put on him by the exterminator. And, like, so they did these like human security system animal slave things for a bear's cave? Like, why? Like, there's something to be said of, like, Vincent setting the traps himself. I think they say that he set a lot of the traps we see later himself, like, actually outside his den. But, like, they imply that that was also part of the brainwashing, and that he was made to want to kill them, but Vincent already wants to kill you, so why would they go to the trouble of doing that? And if you have the mind control of Vincent, why would you leave him in the cave and make the, like, animals go through all this to come get him, when you could just, like, I don't know, mind control him to go over the hedge to the woods and murder them? I don't know, it just seems like a very strange way to include Vincent in this game. Especially, again, not to get too ahead of myself, but he does eventually end up joining your party, but because of how that works in this game, that doesn't really have any meaningful effect on gameplay. He just kind of sits in the woods with you for the last few levels. So yeah, I don't really understand that at all. Also, it's weird that, when there's a confluence of enemies, but most of them are rats, they just do the rat icon in the corner. I don't know. Silly. But yeah, luckily, I do have a lot of video games that are based on movies and stuff that I can go to, even if it has to go outside the realm of just LPs and traditional runs of games. Mostly because there are lots of, like, spin-off ones, like the Shrek series has a bunch of games not just based on the movies and stuff like that. And I have a fair amount of experience with those as well, or at least familiarity with them, because I feel like an interesting kind of LP other than games that I had a lot of experience with as a kid and I'm revisiting them as an adult is also the type where I was aware of it, but this is kind of my first time really experiencing it. I think could also be interesting. And luckily I had a huge obsession with animated movies, and specifically computer animated movies, when I was a kid, which is so weird because I have such mixed feelings on computer animation now. Or not on computer animation as a concept, but about specifically the style of computer animation that has become dominant in feature films now. Which obviously is heavily... The standard was heavily set by Disney and Pixar, which is, you could say, the same for most eras of animation in history, including its very origins. But not entirely. Here, it seems that it's even more dominated, and I think the only real alternative to it is this sort of, like Sony animation / like Illumination type of style. Sony at least has gone into more stylistic, more formalistic things. But especially Illumination, where it's a little bit more heightened, a little bit more cartoony, a little less realistic looking. Because Disney and Pixar, like, pride themselves on making, like, textures and rendering that are very believable and look real. But the characters are still stylized, and maybe even the environments are stylized, but it seems that over time they're going into less and less stylized environments, and it's more just the characters. But I think, I don't know, sometimes I feel like that clashes stylistically, and I'm more interested in computer animated movies that, want to use computer animation in a new way, other than just like, let's make this look like a semi-believable three-dimensional object, but have the characteristics and movement of a traditional two-dimensional cartoon character, so that we can, in a way, I think computer animation, a lot of computer animated movies attempt to be something of a synthesis between the conventions of live-action filmmaking and the conventions of cartoons. And I I don't have any like great examples ready on hand right now, which is a shame because this is just kind of coming off the cuff. I haven't like been thinking about this or anything. But you know, some movies I feel like probably manage that synthesis better than others, but for the most part I think it presents a little bit of a conflict between the two, and I don't think they always work amazingly with each other. But I don't know. Like I said, this is coming kind of out of nowhere, so I'm not like, I don't have a fully formed whatever thesis on this, but anyway. So this part is annoying and much more difficult than I remember it being. And I'm going to be speeding it up in a second because the long pauses that you have to take to defeat all the enemies are prevalent here as well. The only objective is to get 60 chips, and it's very hard to line yourself up under any of them because they fall much faster than you can move laterally across the screen. And there are also rocks falling, and if you get hit by one of them, then you lose the secondary objective, and I got hit by a rock pretty much instantly when I was playing this. And then there's a bunch of enemies that the game like stops for, and I don't know. I kind of think they could have done away with this level entirely, if I'm being honest, because it's not like that this section of the game is, you know, wanting of more stuff, because we still have the level of getting up to Vincent's den from the outside of the mountain to actually fighting Vincent in his cave, so I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm also just not very good at it, so that probably colors my opinion of it a little bit. Anyway, there you go. Got all the chips. Took me a very long time because I suck at the game. Next time, more stuff.